Okay, so this is we're going to call it a fireside chat type conversation. So this is very informal, and just as the president of the Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce, we're obviously very concerned about business and opportunities that are going to be happening for our businesses. And so that's going to be the gist of our discussion today, is focusing on business here in Chino Valley. And so the big thing is we have this inflation. Inflation is happening right now, pretty rampant. And what is your perspective on the Inflation Reduction Act and its further development?
It will do nothing to reduce inflation, but it's going to add 750,000 billions more added to the national debt. We are now looking at $32 trillion. Remember, before this IRA was passed, we had already used, or the Congress has used the reconciliation process to pass other spending bills that didn't have any pay-fors, which is what this one also does. So I'm concerned. It does nothing but increasing more inflation, causing more problems that is not going to be fixed because of this legislation. And also what it does is that it's going to, one of the key component of it, which is why in January, the first thing that we're going to do is to try to repeal this. Because the portion, not all, but portion of IRA that has given the IRS $80 billion to hire 87,000 more agents. Now, they are not coming after, as what they call it, the big corporation, or crack down on those individuals that are committing tax fraud. They're coming after you. This IRA is also, having half of the tax increases will be, burdening the individuals who are making, contrary to what the president says, no one under 400,000 income will be affected. Well, that's wrong. Fact checked 100 times. Everyone under making less than $400,000 will be affected. Everyone is going to be affected in every income category. So again, it's not an Inflation Reduction Act. It's an Inflation Expansion Act.
Now I know that we had our Business Awards recognition dinner, and you were kind enough to present at that event. And we were talking very heavily about our Upskill Chino Valley program, and I know that's important for the folks that are in our room here. And we're working on that to tackle workforce development, leadership development, entrepreneurship development, and economic development in Chino Hills and the surrounding areas. How big of a priority are those initiatives for the federal government? And what are some opportunities or challenges that our business owners should be aware of in regards to those efforts?
During that award ceremony, I believe that was one of my first chance to hear about the success. And I give kudos to your the former chairwoman, and because you are, I know you, and you all worked on this together. But under your leadership, this really became and took off really well. For someone who's serving as a ranking member on the Small Business Committee's innovation, entrepreneurship, and workforce development, it really goes hand in hand with my priorities. So I am definitely supportive of that, and as a ranking member on that committee, as I continue to serve in that, I will be very supportive, and I'll be happy to talk to my colleagues. I would perhaps offer, if your chamber, you or anyone from the chamber can come and be a witness to one of our committee hearings when we talk about workforce development and entrepreneurship, I think this is the type of program that we want to promote. So I'm all for it, and I would love to work with you to get one of you to testify, whether we can do it virtually or in person.
This is chips, right? Chips?
Yes, chips.
Thank you. So the next question is, what is your perspective on the Chips and Science Act?
Okay. All right, if Zev is asking what CHIPS Act is, I wonder how many of you know what CHIPS Act is. I'm just kidding. CHIPS Act is really critical important. This was part of the U.S.-China Competitiveness Conference Committee, of which I am a conferee. I'm not sure if I shared that with you. I'm a freshman, but I was named to be one of the conferees to work on a mega legislation that was passed out of the House. It's called the Competes Act. And then in the Senate, they passed USICA. The intent of both bills was to come up with ways that we can compete with China in terms of semiconductor or in the national security areas, even bringing the businesses back or reshoring the businesses that are now in China or overseas back to the United States so the United States can stay competitive. That was the gist of it. We had differences, so we had to go to conference committee. As we were working on it, the Senate decided that they were going to just take that CHIPS component out of the entire package so that we can pass it immediately. That's because companies like Intel, Micron, or other companies that are involved in the semiconductors or chip manufacturing, they were begging the United States Congress to act before we lose our ability to compete with China. So this was critically important to bring back the companies from abroad and make sure that we have the ability to manufacture semiconductor items, because chips is in everything that we do every single day, from your phone, your computer, to microphone, or even the refrigerator, everything. That's what chips is. It's not just in the electric vehicles or the big things that you think about. So it is critically important, and our economic and national security and the ability to compete relies on this. And so what we're doing is we're trying to right the wrong of the bad policies that the United States got into 20 plus years ago when we agreed to change the rules within the World Trade Organization that allowed companies to be able to manufacture overseas, and when we bring those goods back, there is no tariff. So there was no incentive for companies to stay here, but they went ashore. And thus, in 1979 is when this all happened, and TSMC in Taiwan was established. Now they are the largest chips manufacturing company. They dominate about 90% of semiconductor industry. Now, as China eyes Taiwan, and if they take over, you know what will happen? TSMC has been coming to the United States Congress, talking to the members and saying, we want to invest more in the United States, but we need you to pass that bill as soon as possible. Allow us to invest more. And that's what other companies like Samsung and other countries that are part of the 90% dominance in this industry, that's what they've been telling us. So we're trying to right the wrong right now and giving them the incentive to stay here. And that's what CHIPS Act has done. And another one is Partnership for Energy Security and Innovation Act. That also was included because it does promote U.S. energy independence by fostering the private-public partnerships. So I got what I wanted in the bill, and I knew this was very, very important, so I was very, very happy to pass it. And again, it's about time that we right the wrong.
Okay. Thank you very much. And then Renee and I attended a conference. Renee's our workforce development director over there. We attended a conference a couple of weeks ago, and at the conference, the California Labor Secretary, she shared that there is going to be billions of dollars of state funding and possibly $1 trillion of federal funding going towards better job initiatives, workforce development opportunities. What does our community or business community need to know about funding that's coming towards businesses so that we can be ahead of the game?
First of all, thank you so much for attending conferences like that, because that's where we hear about the opportunities to get additional funds from our government, state or federal. Now, the funds that you're talking about from the California Secretary of Labor, I am unaware of it at the moment. If there is a federal funding that she's referring to, we will eventually find out about it. But it's in that implementation process where members of Congress can seek advice and also get more information. So I promise you that I will do that. And if this is the money that's going to be helpful for our region, I'll fight for it and work with the federal agency. In the LA County portion of the district, in 5760 Confluence Project, that has been the #3 bottleneck in the nation and #1 traffic bottleneck in the state of California. That project, they were trying to improve that bottleneck, have been working on it for a number of years, even when Ed Royce was in the office. I remember this. So he got the initial seed money to start that project. Now I came in, I want to finish that project. So I went to Department of Transportation and we asked for $30 million, and I believe we got $18 million of it to come back. We're continuing to fight for that to get the remaining so we can finish that 5760 Confluence project. That is also very important because that comes all the way out to where we are in Chino Hills. So it's, work like that, working closely with your federal representative. So if this is something that is going through the Labor Department and the money is available through the federal funds that Congress appropriated, I'm happy to work with you on that. But, think about it, there are a lot of money that's out there through the America Rescue Plan, or I should say America No Rescue Plan, because it's not rescuing America the way I see it. It just added $1.9 trillion more. And then there was the Build Back Broke Act that is not helping our economy build back, but it's, where. That also added $3.5 trillion. And now with the Inflation Expansion Act, another 750,000 or $750 billion. I know the numbers are so big. So those are adding to the national debt. So now, instead of, the monies are there even despite the Republicans voting against it. Well, if that's the case, you know what? I'm going to fight for it. And I'm going to try to bring back as much as we can for our region. If I don't fight for it, somebody else sitting on the Appropriations Committee or my other colleagues who are more influential because they are speaking out will get their money to their states. My job is to fight for those to come back to our state and to our region.
You sit on the Problem Solvers Caucus. What are some of the things that the Problem Solvers Caucus is focusing on right now?
Right now, our caucus is working to pass my federal legislation that I talked about to combat the organized retail crimes. The way the Problem Solvers Caucus works is that each member have the ability to bring our bills that we introduce, bring it to the caucus for their consideration to endorse the bill. If 75% of the entire caucus endorses my bill, then it has a better chance of getting it out through the committee process and get it on the House floor for votes, because it's a bipartisan bill. So improving the federal investigations on organized retail crime is one. I already presented it, they liked it, but we're in recess right now until election day. Therefore, we couldn't vote on it. But that is something that we're getting a lot of attraction because, again, we see more and more every single day. It seems like another store and another business is being broken into and being victim of the retail theft and smash and grab. So that's one bill that we're working on through the Problem Solvers Caucus. The other one is before we adjourned for the recess, our caucus endorsed Porch Pirates Act of 2022. And I think this is something that you're going to really appreciate, because this is a bipartisan bill to protect the American consumers by closing that loophole we had. The Porch Pirates Act would apply the same penalties to the theft of USPS mail to the same theft of packages that were delivered by our private carriers like Amazon, FedEx, and UPS, and so forth. So that is going to be a game changer because we want to apply the same principle. So those are just some of the couple of things that I'm talking about, but our problem solvers have a lot of work ahead of us, and I'm really excited that we get to do this and come up with a lot of the bills that we can push through in a bipartisan way.
And then I know, so one of the things that we do is we will sit down and have roundtable discussions. So we had one recently where we had a lot of chamber executives locally that came and sat with you, and you shared some of the things that you were working on. And one of the things that I know that you were passionate about was helping our senior population in our communities explore entrepreneurship. With that, I want to ask you a question is how are you working to promote entrepreneurship to our senior population, and how can the chamber and or our business community help support those efforts?
I've been focused on making sure that our small businesses have the resources they need, especially for the startup entrepreneurs. They need a lot of training and resources that they may not be aware of. And so federal government has the SBA, Small Business Administration, through which there are multiple ways that they can get support from SBDC. The SCORE program, for example, is one. So I have introduced a legislation that's already passed, by the way, reauthorizing SCORE program for 2 more years. In addition to that, when I found out that the individuals between the ages of 55 and 64 are the fastest startup entrepreneurs, yet they don't have the same type of resources, I introduced Goldenpreneurship. This is to help the senior population to also have the same type of resources, but focus specifically on senior citizens. And so we will help you for the first 6 months as you try to do the startup business. And then once you're doing that, there is that 2-year check-in. That's different than just providing you with the training and the resources, information, and counseling that is done through SCORE. So Goldenpreneurship will allow you to have somebody like a SCORE advisors to be able to work with you and check in on you for the first 2 years to see how you're doing, if there is anything else that you need help with, and so on and so forth. So I'm really excited about that. And that bill number is HR 7552. We are working to get it done, hopefully, before the end of the year. But if not, you know me, I'm going to reintroduce it until it gets done.
And then what are some of the key issues and legislative priorities that Congress is focusing on for the rest of 2022?
Right now, before we came back home, we passed the temporary continuing resolution to fund the federal government running until December 16 or 18. And so when we go back after election, we'll be working on the massive, comprehensive, so-called the omnibus bill. So we'll look into that, and we want to get it done because we don't want to shut down our government. And we also want to start the new year on a clean slate because we're going to have a new leadership coming in. So that's number one. And then we're going to be funding the NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act. It is also done every year, something that gets passed. Regardless, you have to pass it because you cannot stop our defense and the ability to protect our nation. So NDAA is another one which our colleagues in Washington, especially our friends on the left, will be looking to inject any and all of their wish list into it because they know continuing resolution and NDAA are the 2 massive omnibus bills that needs to get passed, and they know it will get passed, so they will try to sneak in anything that they think is important, which we will fight tooth and nail to get out as many unnecessary bills possible. But those are the 2 things that's going to get done. Let's see what else. Secure 2.0 aimed at strengthening our Americans' ability to save more, something that we may be lacking. So we are encouraging and working closely with the employers to encourage their employees to be able to save more by, like some employers already offer the matching funds. but we are also trying to increase that more through the Secure 2.0 legislation. And lastly, what I want to see happening before the end of the year is get my SBA Cybersecurity Awareness Act passed. It's now passed in the Senate, so we're just waiting for the final action to get it done. During COVID, when SBA was involved in rolling out those PPA loans and idle funds, we found that it was done so quickly when SBA was not equipped or have the infrastructure to roll out those millions and millions of loans. And so there was a lot of concerns about individuals' private information, businesses' information that is being compromised. As a result, SBA or small businesses are weary of doing business with SBA. And again, as we are dealing with cybersecurity, not just in the United States, but now this is the thing that we need to address across the globe. This legislation is badly needed right now. So again, we're in the final stages of getting that done, and I'd like to see that done as part of the last acts before the end of the year.
Good, good. So if the Republicans take the House, what are some things that we should expect to be on the agenda?
I promise you, this is really exciting. You saw our leadership, Kevin McCarthy and several of my colleagues. I couldn't join them because they changed the date of the rollout of the Commitment to America because we were being respectful for Queen Elizabeth, the funeral. Right? So the dates changed. I was in the district. It's more important for me to be here to be with you. So I wasn't there. But our Commitment to America is what we are going to really roll out. There are 4 pillars there, and that's exactly what we're going to work on. Under those 4 pillars, we're going to renew our American dream, renew American energy independence. We're going to secure our border, make our communities safe. These are just some of the things that we will be working under larger umbrella, and trust me, we have ideas, we have bills we'll be introducing. The leadership will be giving individual members a lot of flexibility to work with them, so it's not a hand-me-down from top down and say these are the things that we're going to do in the first 100 days. We've already done so many policy retreats to come up with the Commitment to America. We have a plan to commit to America and to the Americans that we're going to do differently. We're going to run businesses differently. We're going to be listening more and incorporate your ideas into the legislation that makes sense. That's how we're going to govern from the position of strength. We're going to make sure that our adversaries will fear us because we're going to be so strong and lead once again from the position of strength. We're going to make sure that our allies can trust us. Because of the botched withdrawal we saw in August of last year, now this is what's happening when Putin decides to invade Ukraine. And as we respond to that crisis, and it's continuing, Xi Jinping is watching and eyeing Taiwan. That's not all. North Korea's dictator, Kim Jong-un, is also trying to do something bad. We need to project strength abroad. So this is what I mean when we need to bring our strength back so that our allies can trust us and our adversaries can fear us. That's what we're going to do starting January when the Republicans take over. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And then this is the last question from our list. I know we put the index cards, so we might have a couple of questions that we were able to go through on that. But when we talk about resources for small businesses or opportunities for small businesses, what are some of the opportunities or things that you think that our small businesses in this room should be aware of?
So first of all, if you're members of this chamber, join the regional chambers and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce as they do multiple type of seminars, webinars. They have tremendous resources that are available. So team up with them. Meet with not just me, I'm always here for you. But come to Washington, D.C., or go to Sacramento on those advocacy trips, meet with the legislators, tell them about your concerns that affect your business and your business community. We need to hear from you. Now, take advantage of all the resources at the federal government, not just from the Small Business Administration, but there are resources available at all different levels of different departments. They have grants program, because each department comes to Washington, before Congress, and we passed the appropriations bill that appropriate every government agency to fund. And now that's the example I gave you, Department of Transportation, they have the money. Their job is to take care of our infrastructure, transportation needs across the country. Now it's up to individuals here in the region. What are those priorities? So on that note, what can you do? Work with your local government, local chambers, and come up with the regional projects that would be helpful for all of you. And then come and talk to me in my office. The nice thing about this Congress is the ability for them to, they brought back the community project funding request. Used to be called the earmarks. When it was brought back, it gave me, as your representative, to work with you, sit down and have a roundtable discussion and identify the key projects that's important for us, through which we are submitting grant requests on your behalf. And we got those funds. Last year alone, I was able to submit 10 community project funding requests, and I got 9 of them funded. That includes key projects like funding the Orange County, Riverside, and all of the sheriff department to house all the law enforcement together to do it's called the OCAYAC, Orange County Central Intelligence Assessment Center, and it brings back all the crime victims unit, crime assessment unit, all of this. In the law enforcement, I was able to get $5 million for the North Orange County Public Safety Task Force. I was able to get $500,000 for the Chino Valley, Chino Hills, when the city council brought it to my attention about the open space and the dangers it will bring because of the wildfire, the dangers that it brings. So these are the things that I can do, but this is what you can do at the chamber and with the community leaders. Just identifying the projects and bringing it to my attention, and we will work with you. My team is really, really committed to doing this. Does that help?
All right, so I apologize, we are running a little short on time, so we're going to ask one question that came from our audience, and then we're going to do a special presentation shortly after that. So this question comes from one of our business owners. The COVID shutdown really impacted this business. They had just started their business. They have past due rents over $100,000 because they weren't allowed to operate or run their business for more than a year. And so her question was anybody helping out renters in the commercial rent space?
We'll put you in contact with the person. My office was able to help not only the rentals individuals, but this is an organization that will help you we were able to forgive the loans. So we will definitely work with you, okay? Thank you.
We all know how divided and partisan things are in Washington, D.C., and that's going to continue to be the case. And so with that being the case, it's those folks that are willing to reach across the aisle, and there's only a handful of them, quite frankly, in Washington, D.C. That's going to be the center of gravity in the House. The Problem Solvers Caucus, that's the center of gravity. Those are the folks that make things happen. And Congresswoman Young Kim, that was one of the first things she did when she went to Washington, D.C., is she joined that group. So you're all very fortunate to have a hardworking Congresswoman that fights on behalf of business and is going to be, quite frankly, one of the most influential members, we think, in the House. So all that being said, I'm honored to be here on behalf of the U.S. Chamber to present you with our Advocate for American Business Award.
Bells are dropping. Don't forget to vote for Young Kim. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It's really an honor. It's really an honor to represent you and to to be able to work with you. I would love to do more of these type of events so I can come back and present you with the quick legislative updates. But when I'm not here, you can count on John to be able to come back and give you legislative updates. I know you meet on a monthly basis for that as well, right? Yeah, thank you very much.